Hello, this is Sock Puppet Kingdom, and this is my submission video for AGDQ 2018 for Clustertruck in the No Abilities category. Alright, so let's start here. So the thing that makes the No Abilities category different from the any percent is obviously no abilities. And that can change the game up in a various few ways. Like, for example, there are quite a few skips that you cannot do compared to any percent. And there are some skips that you, and there are some new skips that you have to do instead. And for a lot of it prioritizes speed and good truck behavior, because the truck AI in this game is actually completely random. So the desert world is pretty straightforward in a casual run, but if you try and do it quickly, then yeah, you will run into quite a few hazards. So, for example, in that level 1-6, in an any percent run, then you could just skip over it, but in 1-6, you just have to go as fast as possible and jump off the debris. And one thing to always, and you know, the movement mechanics are you have to be very good at movement mechanics, such as late jumping and strafing, things like that. Which is also a huge thing in the any percent run. But once again, in the no abilities run, things are a bit different. Now here's a skip. I'm going to see if I can get this. If not, then I'm going to do the level normally, and I got the skip. Okay. Now, the thing I did there was I used that hammer there to boost myself to the goal. Now, that hammer's supposed to knock you back, but if you hit it in a certain way, you can make it knock you straight to the goal. And luckily, I was able to get it that time. Now, here's Forest. Now, the main thing about Forest is that it does a really good job of introducing you to uneven terrain and opposing truck lanes, things like that. And I didn't really, and it's usually good to go for that skip right there. That's fairly unchanged from the any percent route, although the lack of levitation does make things a bit more difficult. Now the thing about that level right there is that good truck boost, which is when you just launch off the side of a truck, is very much needed for a good time on that level. And also the thing about this game is that the most of the goal hitboxes are very big. Like, for example, I'll jump off the side here, and I'll hit the goal like that. Now, here's this. Now, sometimes if that truck there is perfectly, behaves perfectly, then you can jump over the bridge and straight to the goal, but I wasn't able to get it that time. And then for this, and then for that, I mean, you can use a really lucky truck launch to, like, get yourself over most of that level, but I was only able to do that exactly once in all the 500 or so times I've attempted this game. And the thing that makes the Forest really nice is also the uneven terrain, because that means that usually the trucks are at a higher elevation than the actual goal, which makes actually getting the goal fairly easy. And now here's Winter, which is For both any percent and no ability, it is full of skips. And you have to be really careful with how you do it. Like, for example, I almost failed that. And here's what I like to call the big three. Now, the big three are a series of skips that can be done in both any percent and no ability in quick succession. So that was the one where you just jump off the side and straight to the goal. And here's the other one. And let's see if I can get a perfect cycle here. Aw, man. Yeah, I just think I jumped off a bit late there. So let's try that again. I'm going to jump off, and then let's see if I hit this. Got it. Alright. Now this one. The goal is sticking slightly out of here, so I'm going to hit it. There you go. It's actually a very specific spot. It required a lot of practice and a lot of visualization to really see where exactly the goal barrier was sticking out, so that I could get that consistently. Let's see if I can get this, and I got it. Alright. Now here's this. Now, a good truck boost really makes this level. And it's also quite difficult to get. I also like calling that level popcorn, because the trucks like to pop up. Now, the thing about that level is just you run it casually, except you do it really fast. And now for 310. Now, this level is fairly trivial on an any percent run, but on a no abilities run, it can actually mess you up pretty badly. Alright, I almost failed there, but I was able to get it. Okay, now for the lasers. Now the lasers for these are... Now the lasers for this are completely random with how they are sequenced, so you have to watch for lasers quite a bit in advance. And as you can see, I almost failed there, but luckily I didn't. And for this level, it's fairly trivial. Literally, the only thing that makes this level a challenge is that it's time-based, and since this is a speed run, it's not exactly an issue. Alright, and I got a really good truck launch there. And then you just go the goal like that. I sort of messed up a bit there, but that's okay. Usually the thing I don't like doing is launching off the back of trucks, because it usually makes it usually makes you run slower. And it's also pretty inconsistent if the truck is, say, going up a hill. Which means that for uneven terrain, it's pretty much like you shouldn't even go for it, really. Alright. I like to go for a truck boost there, or a truck launch. I know, I've heard that mechanic referred to with multiple names. I don't think there's really an official name for it. But for that level, I like going for a truck launch because there are a lot of lasers in that level, and a truck launch can really improve things. Now this level is heavily timing based. There is a way to skip those lasers if you don't have abilities enabled, but it's very difficult. It requires some really high, really precise truck launches. And I was able to do it around once or 3 times, and that was in an individual level run. I was never able to get it in a full run. So long story short is just don't go for it. And now we have this level. Fairly trivial. I mean, it's usually trivial, although I didn't really do so well at it that time. And now we have medieval. Now this is heavily dependent on both truck behavior and how the level's hazards behave. Luckily, though, you can jump on all of the level's hazards. None of them kill you when you jump on them. But that does have the added deficit of it being slower than a perfect run without prop jumping. Occasionally that truck will launch up, but not all the time. And those boost and those launch pads you can actually jump on them without having a truck under you, as long as they are popping up. As you can see, you can really mess up there. Now, with this level, there is a safe strat that involves just jumping on the... just involves directly jumping on the flamethrowers, but it is extremely slow. So it is in your best interest to just do it normally. And there I am using prop jumping to my advantage there. Alright, that was pretty good. And that level is also timing based with the fences and all that. Those gates slowly lower if you go too slow, but that's usually not an issue unless you get really bad truck behavior, at which point, yes, it does become an issue. Okay. So yeah, you know how I said that you can use those launch pads without having a truck under you? Well, that's really what you do with the skip there. In any percent route, both this level and the level before it can be just skipped entirely with a well-placed portable truck boost. But since that's not an option in NoAbility, you have to come up with different things. And then for this level, same as the any percent route, you just jump straight to the goal like that. Now, the main interesting thing in, at least in my run, is level 610, because I do a skip that most runners of this game relegate to IL only. But I disagree, because in my opinion, for a NoAbilities run, it's actually easier to do than the other skip. But maybe that's because I've been practicing it more than the other skip. I tried the other skip a few times and I wasn't really able to do it. And the skips here are pretty similar compared to the any percent. But you have to be very careful on that one, because if you go too slow, then you will hit the death barrier. Then for this level, really, all you can do is just, all you can really do is just jump to the goal, or at least try to. And I'm going to do it right there. Got it. Alright, and for 6-9, there isn't really much you can do here, although you can make some small improvements, like this. Now for this one. Let go here, and got it first try. Alright, now for 7-1, this also has a skip. And it's fairly extensive, so basically you just fly directly over everything. And then you hit the goal barrier like that. And then for this one, exact same as any percent. You just jump and then you sail directly to the goal. And then for this one, you have to do the level more or less normally, which can be pretty bad, as you can clearly see there. But I was able to get through it. Alright, and now this one. This level's fun because it's really nice to just outrun the missiles, or at least attempt to. I'm not really having a good time of it right now, but... I was still able to get through it fine. And like most levels in sci-fi, that goal barrier is very large. So, if I got that level perfectly, then I could have jumped off to the side. And now for this one. Now this level is pretty tricky because these two tunnels are actually misaligned. So you can't just jump straight through them. Alright. Got it. Now an upcoming level is 7-7. Now, there's a pretty, now you can skip the entirety of the level in both any percent and NoAbility, but the NoAbility way of doing it is quite a bit harder. It's pretty much the same except you can't levitate, which makes things very difficult. And you have to get the timing almost perfectly as a result. So let's see if I can get it here. And I didn't get it. So let's try it again. Once again, the timing on that has to be perfect, because you don't really have any levitation to help you out. And I didn't get that time either, but that's fine. And now I got it. Whoops. Accidentally split there. Alright, now this level is pretty, it's pretty deceiving because you do mostly go through it normally, but, as a matter of when to jump off, for both the fastest time and the highest probability of actually hitting the launcher, There is quite a bit of experimentation to be done. It's not exactly as clear-cut as it looks, especially with this one at the end, because that goal, or, well, not the goal, I mean, that launcher is deceivingly close. Or, it's far away, but it's pretty big, which makes it look pretty close. So let's see if I can get that, and I got it. Perfect. Now for 7-9, the secret for this level is to never go to the front at the beginning, because the front always gets crushed by these things. Now, let's see if I can get this here. Alright, I got it. That's fine. Okay, now for this level. This level's fairly straightforward. You can just go to that launcher and count to 9, but it's faster if you just do the jumps here. And now you go to Steampunk. 8-1's not a huge issue, although it is timing based, so if you go too slow, then you won't be able to beat it. So you have to be mindful of that. Then for 8-2, just go to the goal, like that. Since it is a fake level. And those levels are fairly straightforward. Now for the truck cannon levels. Now these levels are fairly tricky. Really, the secret is to stay low and go under the level here, because the goal barrier is very large and very forgiving. And then for this level, you have to do it more or less normally, and I really dislike this level because the truck launches aren't exactly the most consistent thing in the world, as you can see there. And for this level, also fairly straightforward. You just jump, but don't get too risky with the jumps, because these trucks on these like little slipstreams here, they go about as fast as you do while sprinting. So it's not exactly recommended to just, you know, jump on the next one willy-nilly. And then for this one, in any percent run, you could boost off of that truck launcher. Not going to be able to do that on a NoAbility run. And then you just jump to the goal like that. And then for 8-9, whoops. And then for 8-9, also fairly straightforward, although you can skip the 2 trucks at the end. It is fairly hard to skip the second one to the end, though. I like to hit it for safety reasons. And now for 8-10. Now the thing that really trips people up are these gears here. But if you understand the cycle, then you can actually just go through the last 2 in one jump, and it's not exactly that tricky. And also you can jump on these gears over here, which makes things quite a bit easy. And then you go to hell. And the hell levels are fairly straightforward, but the thing is, with hell levels, they pretty much throw the entire book at you, since it's the final world. And in level 9 too, for some reason, launching off of those trucks, the ones in the lava, doesn't actually work very well. Like, I remember I tried to save a run that way, and it didn't work. And with this level, the crosses don't kill you. But the fence does, which makes things fairly difficult. And it's pretty similar to 110, except a lot bigger, and also the crosses have normal physics properties, and they don't knock you back. And level 9-4, I remember in one of the earlier builds of this game, this level was extremely hard. And essentially unbeatable unless you were extremely lucky, but the developers did fix that. And then you go to 9-5. Now, the way these crosses drop is also completely random. I'm almost certain. Which makes things rather difficult to predict. And in 9-6, you can jump off the spikes, but they don't really have the same, they don't really have the exact same, well, it's just harder, I guess. And it's only really necessary if, as like a last-ditch effort to save yourself. Alright, and now for 9-7, which is, which many runners would agree is the hardest level to do in the game. Because there's like uneven terrain, it throws a lot of stuff at you, uneven terrain, a time limit in the form of rising lava, and there's even some obstacles at the top, like those chains, so even if you like get a good truck launch, you're still, you know, you're still not in the clear. And really, the only thing I can hope for here is to just hope that the lava doesn't rise before I hit the goal. And luckily it didn't. Okay, now with this level. Now, there is mostly a pattern to these pentagrams here. But what is random is how they wobble. Like, their wobbling is completely random. So that level isn't exactly the easiest thing to do. And on to level 9-9. This level's fairly straightforward. It's basically just a longer version of 1-9. Except with trucks that rain down. Alright. And the goal barrier on it is fairly generous, so you can just side jump like that. And 9-10. Now, that level usually has a bit of loading before you get to it, but if you preload it before starting a run, then you can bypass that. Now, This final boss is interesting because there is actually a skip you can do in a no abilities run. In any percent run, then you can just put a portable truck on the button and it'll count as 2 hits. But in the no abilities run, there's something quite a bit different. I don't know who discovered this. I think it was hidden, where basically if you go to the edge of the button, it counts as 2 hits. So let's see if I can do that. And I didn't do it. So let's see if I can try that again. Let's see if I can do that again. So basically, you just have to, like, hit it right on the edge. And it could be anywhere on the edge. It doesn't have to be a specific spot. Got it. And that was Clustertruck. So my personal best on this game is 28 minutes and 56 seconds. I am on 4th place in the speedrun.com leaderboards for the no abilities category. And yeah, that was Clustertruck. Thank you for watching.